Though science still can't explain exactly why humans consume food, we do know that Postal 2 is chock full of tasty treats. More than I had realized until I made a list of all of them. From the delicious, to the rarely seen, to the downright disgusting, let's take way too close of a look at everything that Paradise has on its menu, break down some of what's being satirized, and consider the implications of the town's food pyramid. Let's begin with the most common food items, the ones you're probably most familiar with. The humble pizza slice is found all throughout Paradise, and restores 5 HP, with the game manual even drawing attention to the oddness of getting health back by eating in video game. Apparently, the local cheese has unique properties, otherwise it's pretty standard. It looks like it has beef on it. The fast food bag grants a whopping 10 health points when consumed, making it the king of restoration, but maybe only in the short term, as the manual states that it may result in increased risk of heart disease later in life. The bag itself is branded with Coronary Burger, an unseen restaurant, with the name being a reference to the kind of artery disease responsible for most heart attacks, especially after eating too many hamburgers. This and the tagline "Eat your heart out" is the kind of "this product will kill you and we don't give a fuck" branding that has seen parody before, but its inclusion here does predate the reality of the heart attack grill.
It's what's on the menu that gets most of the attention. The single, double, triple, or quadruple bypass burger.
I'm up another few inches. Who needs these old pants? I could eat for free.
Side effects may include sudden weight gain and an inability to see your penis. In some cases, mild death may occur.
While the restaurant currently operates in Las Vegas, Nevada, the original location that opened in 2005 was, where else, but the glorious state of Arizona. Of all these greasy sacks in the game, there is one that has a unique model that you may have missed. On the top floor of the police station, one of the clerk's desks has a Chinese takeout box sitting in front of their computer. It'll switch its model back once you pick it up, but it's a nice little detail. While we're here, let's head into the police chief's office and talk about donuts. Restoring just 3 health points apiece, these come in a variety of shapes and flavors. Original, chocolate glaze, finger bun style, donut holes, and yummy choco custard. There's several locations and references throughout Paradise of authorities stockpiling donuts.
Send out the former child actor. We have a warrant for his arrest.
Go back to the donut convention, I ain't going nowhere.
It's a trope that doesn't feel quite as common in recent years, but I remember seeing it all the time growing up, and I've always wondered where this idea of cops eating donuts actually came from. Around the 1950s, police officers working the graveyard shift and looking for a place to fill out lengthy reports had few options. Establishments serving food in the dead of night were less prevalent, and even late-night diners weren't ideal, with the potential of being called away at any time. Peddlers of dough like Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme, however, remained open throughout the night, preparing for the morning rush. With a side of coffee, they regularly served up donuts, hot, fresh, and most importantly, fast, forming a symbiotic relationship of sweets and security. It became common enough to find its way into pop culture, the biggest contemporary force in my opinion being The Simpsons.
Whoa, that was close.
While wandering NPCs may take interest in piles of cash they see laying around, they aren't fond of eating off the ground. The police are an exception to this, however, simply being unable to resist the temptation of a delicious treat. All food items can be flagged as tainted if it comes into contact with urine, where it will only restore half the amount of HP rounded down when consumed, as well as causing dude to cough and splutter. Food remains tainted even when picked up and then dropped, so if you leave one affected in this way in the path of a cop, well... Another item that works in this way that I neglected to mention earlier can be found in the Seventh Heaven food store. The store itself is a quaint little hovel, serving up donuts at $5 a pop, and aside from the lax food safety, it's fairly mundane. But it's this mundanity that is one of my favourite aspects about Postal 2. There's obviously lots of silly and hyper-violent streaks throughout the game, but it's the contrast with the drab and the boring that makes those elements work so well, for me anyway. Let me know what you think in the comments. Somewhere else that's food-related and boring, at least on the surface, is Meat World. These old-timey beef-centric posters are incredible, a cheerful aesthetic standing between the customer and the bloody reality of a slaughterhouse. Kinda reminds me of Abe's Odyssey. The menu has 3 taglines, so whoever was making it was really going ham. They offer a million billion products ranging from real foods like blood sausage to the fantastical unicorn rump, and a whole lot of innuendos, some less subtle than others. Shouts out to sausage links sold by the foot and roast beast. Anyway, the entire reason you come to Meat World if you're not into sightseeing is to pick up some steaks on Thursday. The manual states, like many other items, you will need money to purchase this item. This is outdated or perhaps purposefully misleading information, as we find the counter unattended.
Hey Ayatollah, how about some service over here? I need some steaks for the Psychotic Friends Network barbecue.
Forcing dude to venture deep into the belly of the beast to find the cuts he desires. These nondescript meat chunks just won't do. The Psychotic Friends Network barbecue is a joke so nice they made it twice.
And steaks for the Psychotic Friends Network barbecue.
And is a reference to the Psychic Friends Network, a hotline you could call to speak to a medium. It grew prominent in the 90s with late night infomercials being aired more than 12,000 times between 1993 and 1994 alone, shelling out $500,000 a week to buy airtime on cable stations, but bringing in $125 million a year. What the fuck?
And the rest is Psychic Friends history.
These aren't the only steaks in the game, and you can find one that is far larger at Earl's Elephant Ranch and Grill, it likely having been harvested from one of the unfortunate pachyderms.
Holy fuck, bud, you got the heat up too high. She's gonna be drier than a fart.
The man arming the grill acts as a vendor, doling out fast food bags for $20, a premium price for a premium delicacy. While the name on the sign might imply that this is the Earl, it's worth noting the tag he's given in post-ed, the level editor, is Bosco, which is used to operate the vendor mechanic, as well as a small trigger if you try to steal these bags of food. What I said about the price isn't hyperbole either. There's fast food bags for sale in the mall's food court for half as much.
That'll be $10.
Possibly explained by the sign on the wall. This is Last Action Euro, located in the western end of the mall, right next door to Pizza Shovel. These are the only two locations in the building where the name of the restaurant matches the sign on the wall and the food that's sold.
Chewy!
Teriyaki Addiction sells donuts. Winner Steak All sells donuts. There's a restaurant in the middle of being constructed, and even though there's a giant Chinese takeout box, I'd put $1 postillion on them also selling donuts. Finally, Smooth Ass Smoothies sells donuts, but at the very least there's also a drink dispenser. The Smooshje machines imply a dispensation of slush beverages, similar to 7-Eleven Slurpees, but their appearance in the Lucky Ganesh may make it a reference more in line with the Quickie Mart Squishy from The Simpsons. Deeper still, there was an episode of The Simpsons that aired in May of 2002, the same time Postal 2 was being developed, titled The Sweetest of Poo, in which the often seen squishies are replaced with the far inferior Smooshje. Smooshje comes in 4 ice-cold flavors. Blood Red Extreme Cherry Citrus, evoking the intense marketing of brands like Surge in the 90s. Below Zero LSD Cherry, which I can only assume tastes the way that the PS1 game feels to play. What seems far more outlandish to me is having 2 of the 4 flavors available being cherry-based. As a certified cherry flavor hater, what the fuck were they thinking? Fine 69 is Paradise's version of 7-Up. It's a beverage with a number in the name, its color in the Smooshje machine would match a citrus flavor profile, and the textures in the game's files are labeled as 7-Up. 7-Up, give it to your baby! And finally, Cracola is obviously a parody of Coca-Cola, down to the style of lettering and the illicit substance in the name. Its use as a power-up and the ability to get the cans from vending machines wasn't introduced until fairly recently, with the addition of X-Patch 3.0 in the game's 20th anniversary update. Prior to that, it was limited purely to decoration. We can even see a bottled version on the side of this fridge, which is full of soda pop, and they're only 75 cents each. Minute Maid will set you back $1.50 though. There's another fridge that has a 69 fine wrap, but the contents are a bit more mixed. There's a few drinks at the top, but it's full of nondescript food boxes, and something that looks like maybe rice pudding? All these aside, there's actually 4 fully textured dispensers in the game files that go completely unused. Vending coffee, vending snack, vending auto, which looks like it has full meals in it, and vending Pepsi, which is pretty clearly a placeholder, the texture for which was later removed from the game and replaced with a white square. In the suburbs not far from the Lucky Ganesh is the Caucasian restaurant. It touts the finest Mandarin cuisine, but the actual menu reveals the strangest mix of cultures. The restaurant's logo is a 3-legged crow known as Samjoko, a mythological creature used by the ancient Korean kingdom of Goguryeo, but for whatever reason is coloured with an Italian flag. The menu itself also offers Thai tea and coffee, guacamole, Mongolian salsa, Japanese rope bondage, and how could anyone forget, crappy cheeseburger. With karaoke upstairs, this is truly an ideal cultural melting pot. And finally, we arrive at the Lucky Ganesh, the biggest supplier of food goods in paradise, at least that we see. There's a lot of items here, so let's do a quick speed round before the last couple of entries. Baboon testicles, self-explanatory. Camel toes, 2 for $1, and camel cheese for 35 cents a pound, both an absolute bargain. Real mayonnaise, but instead of best foods, it's worst foods. Vlasic Pickles gets the same treatment with Asic Pickles, and instead of a stalk on the label, it's a butt. There's gumball machines also found in a few other places like the laundromat. It looks like it has toy jewelry, but the name of the textures insists it's a gumball machine. Hot dogs! They have physics! Funnily enough, the sign directly behind them shows that Running with Scissors have diversified from video games and are seeking to capture some portion of the meat market. And just to throw it in here, there's also a whole bunch of unused posters with a plethora of different foods: hot dogs, pizzas, pretzels, chicken bakes, and ice creams. Now, what do you think these are? For a while, I had mistaken this box for gulab jamun, an Indian dessert of fried dough balls soaked in rosewater flavored syrup. In actuality, it's Lokma al-Qadi, translated meaning judge's morsels, also known as Lokma. Even the Wikipedia entry draws comparison between the two, but they're made of different ingredients, with Lokma originating in Mesopotamia. In English, the top part of the box translates to the brand name Foster Clark's. I'll admit I thought this was a joke at first, using such a proper British name, but it's actually a real brand name. Here's a modern version of the dumpling mix that looks quite similar. Something odd about this product is that it appears in yet another unused texture for the store shelves, but with a different English name. Lung dumplings are referenced on the very vintage-looking billboards for Offelina, the ready shredded beef substance. So considering the real brand name on this box, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a placeholder, and this was supposed to be the final version, but it slipped through for whatever reason. The rest of this shelf is filled with pickled foods, cans of cocoa, stock cubes, mayo, standard stuff, not that far off from shelves seen in the game, full of preserves and candy. The other shelf that's unused has a mountain of pickles and pie fillings, and most disgustingly, a whole bunch of improperly stored lasagna, unless these are shelf stable, which I don't really want to think about. And finally, we arrive at Postal 2's most iconic errand:
pick up some milk.
And the most important to immediately setting the game's tone. Earlier versions of the fridge had it caged up and a sign indicating that at some point in development you would have had to buy the milk directly at the register.
That'll be $5.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Speaking of price, this is a quart of milk. $5 in 2003, when adjusted for inflation, is about $8.83. A quart of milk at Walmart in 2025 is $2.68. A quart of goat milk, however, is $6.47. While the carton looked familiar, I was struggling to find exactly what it was based on. Bold text with red and white isn't exactly uncommon. The old milk fridge has the unedited originals, but the resolution is so low it makes the brand name impossible to read. While I was putting the script together, I had the in-game model pulled up, and just happened to notice a tiny detail on the back of the box that I'd never seen before. There's a tiny little production print showing the origin is Yuma, Arizona. A solid lead. Cross-referencing the name of dairy companies in Yuma with the shape of the name on this texture, Sarah Farms, now known as Sarah Fresh, seemed the most similar. I still couldn't find any images of the cartons, but after finding the trademark lodging for Sarah Farms, there was a scan of the packaging included. So case closed, lost media found, or whatever.